Welcome in, Hawks fans. Your boy Bryce Lewis back at it again for another Believe in Hawks episode. The Hawks getting back in the winning column, ending losing streak against the New Orleans Pelicans, 126-111, as they go to New Orleans, get a win, get back on track, and the first of a back-to-back. Hey, that rhyme. Don't hate the player, hate the game. And got some good performances and a big return to the lineup in Dyson Daniels, going against his former team, giving one of his better performances of the season as well. So I appreciate you guys tuning in to Believe in Hawks to break down this game, this win for our Atlanta Hawks, as they are now 3-4 on the season, and they have another game coming up against the Boston Celtics Monday. So we'll talk about that at the end of the pod. But right now, like I said, the Hawks are winning. Before we get into it, go ahead, follow me on Twitter, Bryce_2K, for all my Hawks takes, keeping up with the games, keeping up with your boy. Obviously, I also try to follow back. Secondly, if you're watching this on YouTube, subscribe to the channel, like the video, show some love. Appreciate all of it. Also, my audio listeners, same thing. Leave a rating and review as well. So let's go ahead and dive right into it. The Hawks, like I said, tonight, getting a big win, ending a losing streak that has been going on after starting 2-0, losing 4 in a row, now 3-4 on the season. Like I said, beating the Pelicans 126-111 in a game where they just got good performances from their best players. Dyson Daniels gave you a good performance. Larry Nance stepped up. Garrison Matthews, which we'll talk about, he had a really good game. Trey didn't have his best game, but played better in the second half. That helped out. And obviously just continuing on and on about what they have done and some of the things that they have done to get them into this place that they are right now. If you look at the game stats, Hawks shot almost 60% from the field. They shot 57% from the field. They were able, this is probably one of their best offensive games they have had all season long, shooting at that percentage. I believe this is the most points they've scored this season, but also probably the most highest field goal percentage they've also had in a game so far this year, shooting also 42% from three, probably one of the highest percentages the team has also had this season. They shot 92% from the free throw line tonight, only had 16 turnovers, 29 assists, 41 rebounds, 10 offensive, 10 steals, obviously a big steal team, and pretty much, like I said, got good performances from certain guys against a banged-up Pelicans team, let's be honest. They didn't have DeJounte. They didn't have Herb Jones. They didn't have C.J. McCollum. Zion was ruled out before the game with a hamstring. So both teams had a cluster of injuries coming into this game. The Hawks were able to have their best players available compared to the Pelicans' best players available, and that was good enough for them to get the win in New Orleans. And so really this game was a game where, Hawks started off good. They were able to play some good basketball. Second quarter was kind of back and forth. They made a run kind of in that middle end of the second quarter. I tweeted about it. I said this is really good because usually one of the things that you've noticed in this losing streak is the Hawks at the end of quarters don't finish quarters well, especially at the end of the half. Hornets game is an example. The Thunder game is an example. The Kings game is an example where they'll be in it and then they'll have a bad end to the half, and then now they're coming out either down or the lead's not as big as it was, and then how that goes. So this was one of the games where they actually did well. Pelicans did score a few baskets at the end of the half, but it wasn't like the previous games were. But the Pelicans did end up winning that quarter. Coming out to the third quarter, Hawks really turned it on. I think that's where it feels like there was something that turned up. Jalen Johnson became very active, which I'll get into in a minute. Trey making some good plays in that quarter, obviously. Big thing for him tonight, though, was the fact that he only had to play 31 minutes. Trae Young's been having to play around 40 minutes a game. He's been playing a lot of minutes because of what's been happening with the backup point guard position. To this game, they were able to get his minutes down, which is very important because they were able to get production when he was off the floor. Now, they didn't finish with a plus, in him not playing when he's not playing. But if you watch the game, you'll understand what I'm saying. They were able to do some things, especially, I think, in the second half, where I think it allowed Trey not to have to play as many minutes. And then obviously the fourth quarter, they really started that fourth quarter strong, and it got up to a 25-point lead. I mean, the game finished at a 15-point defeat, but it got up to a 20.5-point lead in the fourth quarter. Hawks really stepped on the Pelicans' necks, really just took charge of the game. Like I said, Jalen Johnson creating turnovers, Rishi Shea creating turnovers, Dyson Daniels, he had fun tonight. Larry Nance dunking on folks. I mean, you got all the guys doing something tonight and creating good a good brand of basketball that I think the Hawks are trying to build right now, especially with the new guys. And then I'll also get into how the depth has worked out as they continue to get some good performances from guys who would be, if everybody was healthy, at the end of the bench in the third unit. And they've been giving them big minutes and big performances that's helped them kind of figure out how to stay afloat while you have these injuries right now if you're the Hawks. So definitely a lot of good things that could come out of this game. And like I said, just good to break the streak, get a win, get back on track. Like I said, you have a very tough game coming up, but like I said, it's really good to win this game. And you also can kind of see where this team looks like with certain guys in the rotation and who is important to what they're trying to do, like a guy like Dyson Daniels. So let's go ahead and jump right into it. Jalen Johnson tonight, 29 points in this game, 38 minutes, 9 rebounds, 8 assists, made a couple of big plays, not even just with scoring, with his playmaking ability late into that half, in the second half, man. Jalen Johnson, we've talked about him, how, he is a guy who has had some struggles early in the season, right? First time he's been a second option, learning how to be a second option, how he can impact the game. And tonight was just another example of how he can impact the game. Because one of Jalen's strengths that I think he really needs to really believe in is his ability to impact the game without scoring the ball. I think one of the issues, too, with him these last 2 games, he wasn't really impacting the game in other ways, even when he wasn't scoring. Tonight, he scored, but he also did other things. Because like I said, sometimes with the point guard situation the way it is, they're going to ask Jalen, hey, can you run the offense? Can you make a play? Can you be the playmaker instead of whoever the point guard is, which right now is Keaton Wallace, who's been playing very well, but still is sometimes being asked to just play some 2 or play like a 2 while Jalen is moving the ball around. And I think tonight, you saw him really get to the hole, create some opportunities. Obviously, you got a fast break dunk. Haven't seen that one in a while. It just did different things. And obviously, again, Herb's out, Zion's out. He didn't have to go against those guys tonight on the offensive end, and had to go against them defensively. So that helped. But it was something that helps build his confidence, helps him get more confident in his game, and makes him feel better about what he's trying to do moving forward. So Jalen Johnson really had a strong performance tonight, and again, it's a process for him. He's continuing to get better. He's continuing to learn. He's continuing to figure out can I be the best version of myself and help this team and impact the game in different ways. That is something Jalen has to do as he continues through this journey that he's on right now, as he continues on this journey as becoming, like I said, a guy that they can rely on night in and night out in this rotation, in this lineup. And so I think, I think the Hawks are undefeated this year when he has like 25 plus points. So, I mean, clearly when Jalen is having a strong game, the Hawks win. Actually, that's a lie. They lost the Wizards game. I believe the Wizards game they had, I believe the first one I think he had 29. They lost that game. So that's a cap. They're 1-1 now when he scores 25 plus points. But the point is that they definitely seem like a different team when he's aggressive and he's scoring the ball. And then you couple that in with the rebounding. You couple that in with the playmaking. That is how he can impact the game and now be a very dangerous player. This was probably his best game of the season so far, realistically. He had a plus 32 on the floor when he was on the floor for the Hawks. So that just showed you when Jalen Johnson was on the floor in this game against the Pelicans, good things happened. And so that is something that, again, something to build off of, something to improve off of. Look at the film. What did I do well in this game? What can I continue to do well? What can I improve? Because every game, every season, every player has a journey. I've mentioned this to you guys multiple times. And Jalen Johnson, it's still early, still extremely early. He's going to have some other bad games, but he's also going to have some really good games. And we're just hoping as the season continues to move forward, we'll see more good games from him than bad. Trae Young tonight actually was really good at taking care of the ball. Only 2 turnovers tonight for Trae Young. Really, first half was very slow. Wasn't a really impactful first half for Trae Young. Second half kind of picked it up a little bit. Hit 5 threes in this game. So especially 2 back-to-back threes in the fourth quarter that really just sealed the game away for the Hawks. 23 points, 12 assists. And like I said, him playing 31 minutes has been big. With the point guard situation, he's been having to play a lot of minutes, which put a lot on his plate early in the season. And obviously Trey's not going to make any excuses to say he's tired or anything like that. But obviously, ideally, for a long 82 game season, you don't want your starting point guard playing 40 minutes a game, realistically, especially the way he has to play, where he basically is the team right now. Like, with all the injuries, it puts a lot more on his plate so that it makes him have to exert more energy. And so now tonight, especially on the first of a back-to-back, it helps him not have to extend that type of energy and kind of just be able to, keep himself at a good place without going into the Boston game saying, I just played 40. Now I got to come back and play 40 again the next night. And especially, again, the Hawks have yet to have 2 days off this entire season. The Hawks have played every other day so far this season. So they still are trying to, they have to be careful about minutes because it's not like you're getting 2 days off. And so it's like, okay, we can play you a lot of minutes because we won't have to play again in 48 to 72 hours. It's like you're playing again after 1 day. So you kind of want to manage your guys even early in the season because, like I said, it's a long season ahead, and you want to manage those guys as they move forward. But Trae Young did what he needed to do tonight, play well. Like I said, this is probably the best him and Jalen have had in one game together, I'd say. Because I've mentioned before, during this struggle, the Hawks need both Jalen and Trae to play well, and they haven't actually gotten them both in the same game to play well. And this wouldn't be a game that you would maybe classify from Trae as a great game, so to say, but it is a game that he played decent to well in, took care of the ball, and helped, like I said, made plays when they need to be made and helped out with Jalen in them. So really big for them to really just continue to, build that chemistry between the two of them. And like I said, those are two of the face of the team. So, obviously, if your two best players are playing well, you would think that would lead to good results, which it did tonight. Ricochet continues to go through the rookie grind, 11 points, 5 rebounds, 1 assist. He was the only player with a negative. So, I guess if you hear that, you're probably thinking, okay, Ricochet didn't have the greatest game in the world, right? And he did. And you know what? Like I said, it's funny people have been talking about the class of rookies and just how, like, there's not a lot of rookies in this class that have just shot great. Like I've told you, the top 3 picks have all kind of been okay to below average. We knew a lot of people talk about this rookie class as not being some great rookie class. And, Ricochet is a guy who I think from a skill perspective has a high upside to me because of the skill set and what he can do. And it's something he's still learning how to do. I think, every game is a chance for him to grow. Every game is a chance for him to get better. Every game is a chance for him to kind of figure out, okay, how can I be better than I was previously? And like I say, he's going against different matchups every night. So Ricochet is trying. And there's times where you watch him play, and you watched even tonight. He'll be aggressive. He'll try to get a shot. He'll try to get a good look. And, eventually I think Ricochet is going to start hitting those. I think he's going to start hitting those. I think he's going to eventually start being able to make those shots and being able to be more of a threat offensively. So, and that next step for him is getting comfortable in his role offensively, because defensively, I saw him disrupt. I saw him create turnovers, get some points off turnovers. So I think defensively, he can, you can see his impact on the floor that he can make. But offensively, I think he's still working on that, getting himself right. And just like I said, getting himself comfortable in the flow of the offense. So, when they do call his number or when he does get good looks, he can create opportunities for himself or teammates, or like I said, score, make a play. And that also can be just as beneficial for the Atlanta Hawks. Dyson Daniels returned tonight in a return game to New Orleans. Only played in 25 minutes in this game, but had 16 points in those 25 minutes, 5 rebounds, 3 assists. Listen, Dyson was active tonight. You kind of saw what the Hawks have been missing the last couple of games. Just that wing defender who can disrupt, who can harass, who can make it tough on you. Dyson literally is the best defender on this team. Let's be honest about that. He is. And, he did what he needed to do in this game to kind of remind you of why he is. You just saw the impact. And then when Dyson gives you games like 16 points, it's so crucial to them, because especially right now, because of the fact that, you are down some guys who could, like Bogey, who can give you 16, 17, DeAndre can give you 15, 16. And so you need a guy to step up right now in that starting lineup. And Dyson stepped up tonight. And obviously, this game obviously probably meant a little bit more to him. Going back to New Orleans, a team that traded him, wanting to kind of show them, like, hey, I'm a good player. And, you guys had me buried on the bench. Obviously, yeah, Pelicans had some good players in front of him, but he's having his chance to shine and a chance to show the organization, this is the player I could have been for you guys. So Dyson, again, was impactful in this game, 7 to 10 from the field, shooting the ball efficiently, 2 of 5 from 3. And like I said, just impacting the game in different ways. And I think that, to me, is what Dyson's role is going to be. Impacts the game defensively, and then defensively, he uses that impact to then use that to create fast break opportunities, create transition, and just help the team get into a good flow and offensive energy. And you heard, even in the earlier games with Dyson Daniels, guys talking about how, you're seeing Dyson with active hands, being active, trying to create turnovers, and just fighting for the ball. And that being infectious. Guys like Zachary Richichet taking notes from that. Other guys just seeing that work and that effort he puts in defensively and saying, I want to put in that same effort. I want to play that type of defense. I want to be that disruptive, because you see the positives that can come from that. And I think too, with that, I think the fact that you have a guy like that, if you're trying to set a culture defensively, Dyson Daniels is one of the best people to have in your corner to set that tone defensively. And I think hearing that from his teammates, that they're looking at in the way he's playing defense and wanting to kind of replicate that in their games, their defensive performances, shows a lot. Immediately already, just from Dyson Daniels and what he's been doing with the Atlanta Hawks so far. And it was big. It was a huge boost to get him back tonight against the Pelicans. Get a guy, hopefully, like I said, luckily he only had to miss a couple of games. Hopefully, like I said, stay healthy. He only played 25 minutes tonight. That could have been on purpose, just not to overextend him too much, and et cetera. But, like I said, they got good performance from him. And also, I think Keaton Wallace also had a part to play in that, which I'll discuss here in a second. So, like I said, Dyson's going to be a player who's going to be extremely important for the Hawks, and a guy who I would say you could expect the Hawks to have contract conversations with Dyson Daniels after the season. To me. Clint Capella again. Clint really this season hasn't done anything special. I don't know if Clint has had a great game. He's just had average games, I think. So I made a good point. One thing about Clint, though, this year is that he's not taking as many bad shots. Really, most of his shots attempts are him driving to the basket after a pass and pick and roll or an alley-oop, to be honest with you. Like, Clint really isn't, taking a lot of really bad shots, which I believe, just shows his growth as a player. And, that's leading to him not really shooting the ball a lot, because he knows offensively that's not his game. And we can talk about the center position, how obviously a Kongu, when he's out there, the Hawks offense is much better. But then when Clint's out there, the defense is much better, because they're two different types of players. Kongu obviously is the better offensive gifted player. Clint is obviously the better defensive player. This isn't rocket science. This isn't something brand new. This isn't something crazy. This is just, how things are between the two types of players that they are. So, like I said, Clint really, didn't do anything crazy today, but like I said, did Clint Capella stuff. Larry Nance, obviously, Onyeka Okongwu before the game was sat out due to right toe management, obviously managing that injury. He will probably miss a lot of back-to-backs this year. So Larry Nance, obviously a guy that if you're Quinn, you can trust him to come in. They prefer him at that center position. 14 points tonight, 6 rebounds. Obviously played with the Pelicans the last few years. So obviously another game that meant something to him. 6 of 8 from the field, 2 of 3 from the 3-point line. And like I said, did some good. And had a nasty dunk late in that game. Larry Nance, man, king of posters. Like I said, gave you great production off the bench, 14 points. Can't say enough about Larry. And like I said, Quinn, the good thing about Quinn through this process, and it's big for the players too, is with these injuries, the guys who would probably be the third unit, probably wouldn't be playing, are showing Quinn, hey, you can trust me and play me big minutes, and I can still give you production Because usually sometimes some coaches, they'll just shorten their rotation or they'll really limit the minutes another guy plays if they don't really trust them. Larry Nance, a veteran, a guy who knows how to play the game. You trust Larry Nance. And I think that gives them a lot of confidence to go ahead and sit Okongwu because they know it's not a situation where it's like, oh, we are dropping off dramatically if we sit Okongwu. Like maybe, and Bruno was good at times last year, but like I would think we all would agree that Larry Nance is better than Bruno Fernando. And so for them, they're looking at it like we feel like we can basically still have the exact same team, the exact same offense on the floor with Larry Nance. Maybe even a little bit better because he's right now probably a better shooter than Okongwu, especially from the 3-point line. But he gave you some good minutes tonight, 25 minutes tonight, and gave you good production that was really needed in this win over the Pelicans. David Rodney continues to play well. Didn't have a crazy stat line to 8 points, 3 rebounds, 3 assists. But we've talked about how he is a player. He is a guy who, he just knows how to play the game the right way. You can see his basketball IQ. A guy who just, does what he needs to do. You can't say enough about him. I mean, obviously defensively he could be a bit of a liability, but you can't say enough about him. He's came in and he stepped up. He has stepped up. He has really played well when the Hawks have needed him with the injuries. And, again, a guy who, wouldn't be playing if we were healthy, but Quinn probably has a lot of trust in David Roddy now, knowing, hey, if we ever have a situation where we need him, I don't have to sit here and think, oh, I'm a little concerned if David Roddy can play. If Roddy can play. And I think that's something obviously you want as a coach. Keaton Wallace tonight, offensively didn't have his greatest game. But Keaton Wallace, man. What am I saying, Keaton? My fault. Keaton Wallace. Keaton's his brother. Keaton Wallace, man. He's been big, man. He is an NBA player. He is an NBA player. Two-way guy. Earned it this offseason. Proud of him. Coming into this season, I said this in a couple of episodes. I was like, I think Quinn is a little worried about the Keaton Wallace thing, just because, again, two-way guy. Don't know how he'll adapt to the game, but you need him to play minutes because you need a backup point guard. And he has played really, really well these last few games. And he has showed he can play at this level. Especially, listen, the thing about the Wallace brothers, they make their money on defense. And he's shown that in these games. He is still a dog defensively, still can create things. And I think that helps him be able to be played at 2 as well, with Trey on the floor as well. You've seen that a couple of times these last 2 games. So, Keaton, especially when he's hitting his shots, he'd be very effective for this team. And it allows the Hawks to not have to rush back Kobe. Because now Keaton Wallace can play. And it's going to be interesting for how they handle that situation. Because if Keaton Wallace plays well, how do you ingratiate Kobe? Do you just immediately insert him back in as the backup point guard? Do you ease him back in and allow Keaton to still get some minutes? It'll be interesting, especially because he can play both positions, 1 and 2. Combo guy. So if they maybe have a shooting guard injury, obviously you could go Vic Krejci, but is Keaton guy you keep in consideration in those situations? It'll be interesting too because he's on a 2-way, and with what the value he's provided so far, Hawks may have to make a decision on Keaton Wallace at some point this year on if they're going to give him a full-time NBA contract. So, and because right now he's showing a lot of Hawks fans this guy can play, and he has been a godsend for them right now while they're in this point guard situation with Vic Krejci out and Kobe Buffkin out. And then Garrison Matthews, man. Don't get me started on Garrison. Garrison has shot lights out these last few games. He has had some of his best games because of his shooting. I mean, he was a high 3-point shooter last year, percentage guy. Still continuing to get that this year. 11 points tonight. I mean, he's a guy who, you lose Bogey, and Bogey probably is a better all-around offensive player. But Garrison Matthews, I mean, the way these percentages look, has been the better shooter between the two. I get it. It gives you trust, again, if you're Quinn, to say, hey, if we lose Bogey, I still have a 40% 3-point shooter I can bring off the bench and get buckets for me and help us stretch the floor, especially since Quinn wants to get up more threes. And so, that just shows you, again, the value that a guy like a Garrison Matthews can bring. And defensively, yeah, he's not the best, but he tries. He'll put his body in position to take charges. He's not afraid to take charges. And so really, really big stuff from Garrison Matthews, man. He's been big for this team to be in some of the games they've been in the last couple of games as well. Playing big fourth quarter minutes at times during these last few games too. I mean, it just kind of shows you what Garrison has brought to the table. in again, a situation where you had a lot of injuries. So, overall, I think the Hawks, like I said, a lot of guys play well tonight. Your big three, I guess if you're not including Ricochet, you're placing with Dyson Daniels, Jalen Johnson, Trae Young, and Jalen Johnson all played well tonight, which you needed from them to beat the Pelicans. And like I said, now you are on to Boston, obviously the toughest team you've played so far this season, maybe outside of Oklahoma City, who's I believe still undefeated. Um, Actually, that might be Cleveland. I might be wrong about that, but you know, yes, Thunder are undefeated. But Boston, I mean, they've looked incredible through a few games, and so Hawks, the only team that beat Boston twice last year. I'm curious to see how this game's going to look. I'm curious to see the matchups. I'm curious to see how things go. I would assume that Yeka Khan will be back tomorrow. So you'll be back with a Yeka and Dyson and Trey and Keaton and Garrison and David Rodney and Jalen and Clint. So pretty decent rotation. You're kind of at a point now with Dyson back where you're kind of like, all right, we could put a decent team on the floor right now. Like I said, we'll have to see when DeAndre comes back. I don't know what's happening with DeAndre Hunter situation. He went from day to day to just out in games. I'm like, and the Hawks are not saying anything about his status. So definitely something to keep an eye on what's happening with DeAndre Hunter. But, overall, like I said, good win for the Hawks tonight. Really needed that win to get themselves back on track. Really excited to see what's to come for this team. As like I said, we're still in the beginning of the season. We're going into game 8 on Monday. Let's see what happens against the Boston Celtics. Let's see if the Hawks can get back to 500. So if you have any thoughts on if you want to leave your thoughts on what you thought of the game against the Pelicans, leave them in the comment section down below. Appreciate you guys. Obviously, like I said, follow me on Twitter by _2K. Subscribe to YouTube, like the video. Leave a rating review if you listen through audio. But guys, that's all I got for you. It's your boy Bryce Lewis. See you next time.